Hi, I am Rashmi Chanduraj, the founder of Oxstone Capital Partners. It's great to have you all here today. Um, my God, almost 20 years in corporate. I want to say, the world of being an employee, it reminds me of what Robert Kiyosaki calls like the E quadrant. If you've read the book, Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about, obviously being, the E quadrant or the employee quadrant. I actually decided to take, like a leap of faith and move, into like a business owner and, or the B quadrant or the I quadrant, which is the investor, quadrant. Honestly, it was not an easy decision. But my passion for real estate, and more importantly, I think my desire to be present for my kids, pushed me to, make that change. I wanted a career that not only brought me like more meaning and impact, but also gave me, freedom to be there for my family. So I obviously made that jump because let's face it, you obviously can't do it all, right? But today I'm excited to introduce someone who's managed to strike, that perfect sort of balance, successfully like juggling a full-time career while building like a thriving real estate portfolio. It's not a small feat, right? My own journey, especially I've been, drawing a lot of like inspiration from Robert Kiyosaki's book, which has really sort of, shifted my perspective. The idea of, moving, or the idea of just being an E or an employee and becoming a business owner or an investor has honestly been like eye-opening. It's taught me the importance of, building assets and work, that work for you. And then also, instead of always sort of trading your time for money, really sort of, understanding and changing that mindset. And that's kind of really what, has helped me where I am. And I am so excited, like our guest today, who has done it all. Goke, he's a founding, member of Double Hill Capital Partners. Goke actually brings such an impressive, 14 years of experience. I've known him now a little, less than a year, but has been such, you know, um, a pleasure to work with and, learn from, and really, like get insight from how he's, been able to build these businesses and, establishing a strong like real estate portfolio. He's actually done that in Africa and scale that here. He's now sort of channeling his expertise into more multifamily investments. He's underwritten numerous deals and, focuses on asset management and investor relations, with nearly like 18 years in program management, product, data, and operation management across like various industries. His, I think, degree in engineering and supply chain management from, MIT. Goke obviously brings, like that wealth of not just, pedigree, education, but, also being able to, work in these industries and now bringing all of that in building, real estate investments. It is just amazing to see. And what I want to know is, oh my God, how does he do it all? Right? Goke, let's dive right in. Many of us here are sort of eager to learn about your journey and get sort of inspired. So let's dive right in. I actually want to be able to learn a little bit about, what inspired you to enter, multifamily real estate, especially with a demanding like 9-to-5 career.
Yeah, first, thanks, Rashmi. It's a pleasure being on your webinar. We've talked about this a couple months back, but glad we could make things work and glad we could spend time to just, talk about the journey. Some of the part of that journey, it's also with you. I think you did mention about W Capital. which is one of my efforts in this space. The other bit you didn't mention was Centennial Peak Partner, where we are both jointly, chasing down, portfolios in multifamily, apartment complex. So, interesting journey. Some of that wouldn't have been if I'd not met you along my way, but we get to talk about that in bit later as we discuss today. But back to your question on what's the inspiration exactly, and facing like a demanding career, and that's been my journey all my life, whether when I was in oil and gas or now that I'm in tech, or just straddling in between being an entrepreneur and also looking for those prospects outside. But I think specifically for multifamily real estate, I would say, some of the things like knowing that 90% of millionaires come just from, owning real estate in the US, right? That sets something apart for you to like knowing the amount of that percentage that even grows to be billionaires from like private equity and real estate, drives it. And this is like, laid down, history of many years, and it repeats itself in cycles, right? So my inspiration is, drawn from multiple things, and knowledge of the fact that there is a point where you have to, one, understand that you want to leverage and build appreciation for you. And real estate, is definitely a space where you can do that, right? You can leverage finances. You assure yourself of like steady cash flow. And I think as I start to understand the tax balance in the US, it started, driving me to understand how can I, position myself to be able to get a lot of tax advantage that come from that. Like in the past few years, inflation has been something top notch for everybody. Everybody watch out to see what the Fed is going to do next. Real estate is also a place where you have that opportunity to hedge against inflation, and not to even talk about the fact that it helps you to diversify your portfolio. You're talking about recession proof, positioning from like, how do you set up your portfolio in such a way that you're able to reduce volatility and things like that. The other part that to think about in, my inspiration for real estate, drawing from my history of, what I've built back when I was in Nigeria, and understanding just the value of first appreciation. You take a building, you do a few value adds, you do a few upgrade, and you are able to like see that come through in how whether it's the rent generated or whether when you're exiting that building, you see the value of first appreciation coming through. And I think it's something you don't get in stocks and bond, right? Because that's not something you can drive. That's something that is out of your control. And the fact that I would say there's some security that comes from the fact that you can control and there's tangibility, right? Like you can touch something, you can go to the asset. And I think that's something that's all, sums up into what I would say it's just long-term wealth building. You lay down some of that in your intro on, how you move around the quadrants. You have to decide where you want to play. You have to decide what your short-term, what a mid-term goal and the long-term goal is. But if, the long-term goal is like, wealth building, making sure that you have ability to continue to use real asset. And I say real asset specifically because real asset is more, encompassing. It's talking about commodity, real estate itself, which is like, focal point of like what we will discuss today, equipment, natural resources, and all of that. I think those are like where you would think about the opportunity for everyone to play, not in the short term, but in the long term. And I think this like drives my inspiration. And it's also like thinking about how the overlap is in what you do in your 9 to 5, right? So you have to think about what then happens in your 5 to 9, which is like the typical question I ask everybody. How are you spending that time? How are you spreading the opportunity? How are you leveraging your transferable skills and things like that? And I think this niche of real estate, multifamily investment, kind of piqued my interest, seeing that there's potential and opportunity to scale in a way where you're still driving your passion in your everyday work. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You don't have to, down to then focus on it. But you have opportunity to just look at your schedules, look at your day, and then plan it effectively and work like a team for me. So I think that's one big area for me. Part of my history, I started in the US as a single family investor, and I started asking myself critical questions like, how can you scale this? Can this go beyond you? And I think I started finding the answer in this asset class, multifamily investment, which has kind of think about systems and processes that can be put in place for you to be passive, for you to be active. So definitely a lot of uniqueness in apartment complexes, multifamily assets. Drives my inspiration from the fact that I don't have to abandon shift of what I like to do in my 9 to 5. And then there's a lot of transferability when it comes to skills.
I love it. So much there to sort of, unpack. And I think, from an asset class standpoint, I think, for sure, unlike stocks and bonds, just being able to have like that opportunity to be able to leverage is just so powerful, right? Like, I mean, I can, go invest like 100,000 or $1 million, in a asset, and being able to leverage from the bank and buy an asset that's far beyond that, right, with just this much of liquidity. But if I'm going and buying stocks, then that's it. That's what I get. Yes. And I wait to see the appreciation and obviously the volatility. And again, I'm not going to go against stocks because, obviously you want to be able to have a good, solid, diverse portfolio. But, I definitely see the value there. That's so powerful. Thank you. I know you kind of touched on some of these, a little bit in terms of, like, how did you go about sort of, especially with your, corporate experience and, like with product and, data, and you talked about how some of it was transferable. What was your sort of approach to using that, to multifamily investing or real estate investing? Can you break up that for the audience to say, well, this is kind of what, like, I don't know if you worked on a framework, if you've got like a thought process and how you've gone about doing that, if you can sort of break that for us, it would be great.
Yeah, no, good question there. I think I would speak about like 4 different areas, and kind of give more specific examples. For instance, talking about, I started as an engineer, right? Working in telecoms, oil and gas, and all of that. And in oil and gas, it's a high risk, high reward industry. We're talking about, safety is high. There's one single incident, a lot of people can go for that, right? And that, for instance, lays the background for like how I think about, managing financial and operation risk carefully when I'm looking at deals, when I'm looking at apartment complex, deals, for instance. The background helps me to, make informed decision. Particularly when it comes to like, balancing the returns with potential downside. So you think about, being in, for instance, moving from like a high risk, high reward environment to experience you've gotten, just managing data teams, for instance. And now you're set with, looking at a deal and you're having multiple data points, whether it's your trailing 12 months of performance or whether it's a rent roll that is being thrown at you, or whether it's, which some of which we've done before, where you see some deals and there is no data anywhere. There's hand-coded data. And you're thinking through how do you move this into something that you can digest, analyze, or whether it comes with, the rigor of underwriting a deal, which is you're looking at all the input drivers of expenses, driver of top line, rent collection, or understanding market research. So all of that analytical and complex problem solving skills, come into place when you have to manage all these various data points. You're looking at market research data, and then you're deciding what is the most critical data point here, right? Which is something we do every day. We do it as a product, you will do it as a program manager, you will do it looking at, what should I prioritize? What is 20% that is going to drive the biggest chunk of, of my metric? And I think that's something that becomes very transferable when you come into this kind of deal. So you're not looking at just a single family home, you're looking at 100 units, and then you're thinking like, how do you pass out, data to be able to say, well, this is a good deal, high level, this is a good opportunity. This is what is going to return to my investors. This is what is going to return to me. Or this is what disengages. Or you're looking at, just experience designing. I started doing front end design, detail design, and now you're looking at just drawings, right? And then you're saying, how can we creatively change, the face of this apartment? What are the things that we can do that are low hanging? Suddenly you're seeing your ability to visualize, a property's potential just from your ability to have worked with multidiscipline, electrical, mechanical engineers in the past. So definitely there are a lot of transferable pieces. And it all sums up when you move up a bit and then you start seeing the things as end to end. This is mine, this is for the team. And then you can, peel back and add that layer of just entrepreneurship to it, right? It's course industry. Most of what we do, asset management. I've run gas plants in the past. I've run, power stations, and it's exactly the same thing. You're managing every piece of the asset. You're saying, "Oh, this is the valve," and now you're saying, "This is the door. This is the cooker. This is everything that makes this asset together." And you're piecing together what is driving my cost from my asset. Like, what's the cost center that is driving corrective maintenance or preventive maintenance, right? Exactly all of that is what we do in asset management when you're managing this big apartment complex. So definitely, I think there is a lot of parallels that you can draw, and how, what you would think it's like your day-to-day corporate experience or managing operations for most people would bring a lot of value. And I've joined some of these asset management calls for some of our properties, and you find out the conversations are the right one. You're using your five whys. Why is this wrong? All right. Why is the expense? And then you're going down all of the questions to understand what needs to be done, and then you're chasing the right action. So I would say, I mean, at that level of the kind of deals, when it comes to, multifamily apartment complex, syndications and deals, there becomes a lot of opportunity for someone that have very rich, working operation or corporate experience, to bring a lot of value to the table.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, in all of this, like, I mean, if you think about it, risk is actually just about everywhere, right? Like in our day to day, especially for those of us who are managing projects or who are owning, businesses, or in any sort of, like, sort of industries that are, whether it's high risk or not, you are managing risk no matter what, in an everyday basis, right? So it's like, how do you mitigate and have a plan to manage that risk is what's so important. And I love, some of the things that you talked about in terms of operations and everything. So having that corporate experience and what you've seen, having that engineering background, obviously translates well with, with what we do, even on the multifamily side, on the real estate side, when it comes to asset management and operations. I mean, I think buying an asset is just one part of, the puzzle, right? It's like, that's only the tip of the iceberg. The most part of it is sort of hidden under the water. That's what you have to uncover and, go about. So yeah, no, that's great. I love, some of those sort of data points, and having those sort of KPIs drive that. That's important. That's great.
And then you hit a good point there, Rashmi. Most times when you sit down, when it comes to even investor relationship, right? Most of the questions you're going to hear is, what is the risk? Now it's not like, what is the risk on this deal? It's like, what is the risk on my investment, coming into a deal as an LP? And you're walking them through, how you have a risk mitigation plan, because there's always some risk, right? But that part, helps, one bring, the right lingua, the right understanding of, how these things are even managed outside of just real estate space. And there's a lot of cross-dock opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's 100%. That's great. Yeah, like, I know we kind of talked about, like your sort of experience in Africa, and how you got involved in sort of, like the multifamily space. How did you sort of manage that transition? I mean, give us I mean, I think it's easier said. What is a day in a life of Goke look like, as far as, after 9 to 5? What does your, like 5 to 9 look like? And how do you manage, like your time and, allocating that? I know you kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. I think, time management is so important when it comes to, being able to, not just as an entrepreneur or, even as an employee. Time management is so important. And we all struggle with this today between, working and or overworking, or managing, family and, like just personal time and
Yeah.
everything. Talk to us about that a little bit.
I like that part. I'll be straight honest. My, entry into the multifamily space wasn't straight at all. Think about, how do you move from A to B? You can go in cycles, you can get there, and I think that's, or you can go a straight line. I think that's some of the advantage for folks listening, that are interested in pursuing the same thing. For me, there was some few trial and error in the early stage, figuring out that's what that part is. You do the typicals, you listen to tons of, YouTube videos, you absorb a lot of information, you get stuck with information overload, and then you ask yourself, what is the next thing that I need to do? Or is it like reaching out to network or friends and say, this is what is on my goal. This is where I want to be. And, you're jumping on all these webinars, and you're getting a lot of ton of good resources, but you're still stuck and asking yourself, so what's the biggest next thing I need to do? I think one key thing that helped me in my transition, in my first step, was being intentional about the kind of knowledge I needed. Real estate wasn't totally novel or new to me, but what was new to me was, how is it done over here? And I was very intentional about that question. I was intentional about everyone I saw ask those questions. And I think something I leverage, which I would, use that framework for anyone. I've moved industries in the past, I've moved careers, and I think those things are like usually call for me. I call them the CMS model, C for coaching. Coaching is all about, developing skills. I feel like I need someone to teach me something technical about this. Like, how do you even know the offer to place on an asset, right? I could remember vividly one of our first attempts, one of my partners, we saw this asset in Iowa. We loved it. It was an 11 unit. And we said, okay, how do we know the price to put on these assets? We went online, bought a bunch of calculators and started using it to, gauge it. We started using our single family experience, back and forth there. We struggled a bit. We put in an LOI, a letter of interest to say, oh, we're interested in this property. And then they go back to us and ask us, so where's your POF and where's all of that? And then we froze. But I think if you leverage the framework I would share, which is the coaching, mentorship, and sponsorship, I think those are like key, components that, really helped me make my very curvy, long winding journey, straight path. I got into in contact with some coaches. I signed up for coaching, and practically in that coaching, I think I got into a program that was able to leverage both mentorship and coaching together. And I got additional type of coaching, whether it's investor relationship, whether it's underwriting. I was specific to what I needed. Um, Mentorship goes deeper, right? It's about guidance and experience. You need somebody to share with you, how. You have those questions right in the middle. Coaching gives you all the skills. Somebody tells you this is what you need to do. This is, how to do it, and this is all the templates you need. But mentorship is a lot of hand holding. And I think the last piece, which is like, useful, is, sponsorship. Sponsorship means different things. When you're trying to move the corporate ladder, sponsorship means different things. But it's also all about advocacy, right? But in this space of multifamilies, also advocacy in the right aspect. You're thinking about sponsors are the people who open, doors for you, vouch for your capability. And these are the people that give you access, to opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise, walked into. Think about them, they put you on their shoulders, and they're able to open the room for larger deals that are game changing. So I think those are the three things I did and leverage in my journey that made my coffee journey, I believe, a bit straightforward. And going back to time management, which is like very critical to actually take into, because what I want anybody to take out of this webinar is you got to take action, right? That is kind of like at the
100%.
end of the day, you have to take action, but making sure that you're taking the right step in the right direction is as important as the action you're taking. I took action on coaching, mentorship. I signed up for one, and I think there it opened me up to a network of people. And that network of people it opening up to, including people like you, awesome people having similar goal set, helped me to figure out a way to play a 5 to 9 that is different. Now we can all chase something together and everybody has clarity on what they are doing. Everything is not on me. Everything is on the team, and there is, joint ownership, and there is shared vision. I think that's kind of what brought my abilities together, identifying my tribe. That's how I call it, core group of people, that, looks at it, the way your visions and goals are, you might differ in approach. And that's what the one I like. I like when I have those core people, our approaches are different. One is fire, one is water, and one is gas, one is fuel. That kind of a team, right? Which is kind of the team we have in CPP, or the team I'm building in W Capital, for instance. So success comes from collaboration. When I tried to do it alone, I didn't achieve so much. But once I figured out and I started meeting the right people in my journey, they were able to give me the tools I needed, whether through coaching, mentorship, or sponsorship.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I will not forget, CMS, coaching, mentorship, and sponsorship. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, no, I think it's so important, isn't it? Like, I think otherwise, every part of what you just described, I think is so powerful because, otherwise you can be lost in just analysis paralysis, just, educating yourself. And, I know we've been a part of the 100 days to 100 doors journey. So we knew what the reason why we came together, for that is really being able to, like, I think we had enough of the coaching aspect of it, right? Like we had all kind of collected a lot of that information and the data. What we didn't have is, like applying it and moving that needle forward, with actionable steps. So no, I think, that's really, really, powerful, like not to be sort of lost in that analysis process and, take action. And then, oh my God, how much have we learned just from, being able to do that, like, I love some of the other takeaways as far as, the shared vision and, identifying sort of your tribe, because, that full-time job, like once you give it your all and, then you're trying to maximize that time later, you having sort of that shared vision with others and distributing your time accordingly. And, I loved the word intentional. That is just such a powerful word. Like everything that you do, you want to think about how you're moving the needle forward to what you want to achieve. And, being intentional, I think that definitely is, the word for the day for me. Very, very good. Awesome. How, like, I do want to talk about, since we're on this topic of time management and, I want to just address, because I know it's easier said than done, right? Saying, oh, well, like we want to be intentional. We want to see how we want to move the needle forward. And, but when it comes to a day to day, and I'm sure you're a father of, like a now an 8-month-old,
Yeah.
right? So it's challenging. How do you go about sort of prioritizing and, stack ranking your priorities there? And
Yeah.
knowing how do you, like, what is, like the real estate task that's most important to you, especially now, you have like a few assets under your belt, and, how do you go about sort of, managing that versus also your full-time,
Yeah.
work?
Totally good question. And I think first, like you have to master time management when it comes to playing in this space. The first tip I'm going to give, which it's my way, and what I do every day is I would say prioritization and time blocking is key. You're not going to get me to do anything real estate when I'm in my 9 to 5. I'm free to pick calls. I'm free to speak in the kind of job I do, but I do not because I'm like dead focused on all of that in that time space. So that time is all blocked out. It's not for real estate. And then you get to the phase where there is family time. I built some transit time into my everyday. I like to take the train so that I can walk 25 minutes. That is my part of my schedule. Like I'm blocking time to actually walk out, right? I'm walking to the train back and forth. So every day I walk 15 minutes, 50 minutes from that. So that for me, it's how I approach prioritization and time blocking. So what is important? My 9 to 5 is important to me is this stabilizer for us. So we got to keep it, we got to give it all the attention. Now, um, family time is something I don't joke with. I have 3 active boys, and yeah, the youngest is at 8 months. He probably joins all my meetings with me. Now that I'm on some form of time off. And I mean, I was in some meetings yesterday, and he was part of the audience. So that is also important to me. Then the balance of it is where I'm figuring it out, right? I have daily touch points with our team. Sentinel Peak Partner is a good example. It's on the calendar. It pops up on your phone, and you have a duty to not only to join and show up, but to make sure that you closed actions of what has been discussed. So that prioritization and time blocking builds cadence, builds culture, right? W Capital, we meet twice a week, and the time is blocked. Everybody knows right at home, they would say, are you not going for your call? Like, if we have to skip the call for something, or we'll move the call around. So everybody understands the timing, and I think that also drives focus for everyone. This is the time for this, and I'm blocking time to say, I got to prepare my for my real estate call. I have to prepare for, I'm blocking time for it. So if you don't plan the time, something else is going to take that time. That's the first tip I'll give you. Then the next thing is automation and delegation. There is just so much you can do. You need to figure out what are the most important tasks at a level that you should be dealing with, right? So we use some software to manage, what we do. We've tried to use multiple of those, whether it's project management softwares or whether it's tax management software, so that things are popping up on your phones or things are popping up in your computer and your emails and top of your emails, and you're focusing on the most important thing. And once we get to the point where we know that whether through automation we can take out that work, it's not something you focus on. And delegation is key. For my real estate stack, sometimes there are some routine tasks I do think, for instance, it's not value adding. I would say I outsource non-essential tasks for my real estate. So that way I have time back to focus on things that have to do with decision making. Are we going forward this deal or not? I'm not using my time to gather all the input. I'm leveraging AI tools, just not traditional way of spending all your time doing data entry. So I'd say outsourcing non-essential tasks is something you have to invest in. And then I'm just spending time reviewing and reflecting every other 3 weeks. Like, how did this last time go? Is this a time to slow down real estate and focus on my 9 to 5? Because your 9 to 5, sometimes the boundary is not just 9 to 5. You have business travels, you have all of that factored into it. It's just the typical of the day to day of showing up and making sure you're top of the game, even in your 9 to 5. This is not a good excuse to trade for mediocrity, right? This is the excuse to hit it hard on both. So I am also doing reflection and reviewing and saying, oh, I think I can't do more than a deal this year, right? Those are like very honest questions to say. Like, how many deals can I lead this year? For instance, we set a goal to lead 3 deals this year, and we're saying, okay, I think we're capped out with this too, because it's engaging. So there is a lot of self-reflections that come with doing this, and then you have to maintain your network, right? Your peers, your mentors, your sponsors, you're keeping tab. This is all a relationship building business, right? How much of that you can do is important. The last one I will talk about is maximizing your weekends and downtime. Um, 48 hours of weekend is a lot. Until you start prioritizing and blocking meetings and people. I'm doing a lot of investor relation calls on my weekends, right? And that is not something I was using effectively before, right? And I thought it was the weekends were busy with the boys, was beaten with family, was beaten with faith, and all of those things that come with it. But now I have, kind of blocked the right time. I mean, Sunday morning, everybody knows I'm not in any meeting. But right after 2 p.m. on Sunday morning, I start taking all the calls and I start jumping and discussing with folks. So I would say, you're in a 9 to 5, you want to maximize your 5 to 9, and you want to maximize your weekend and downtime.
Yeah. Oh my God. So much there to unpack. That is, great. I love your thought about, like habit stacking, right? In all of this, you don't want to sort of get lost and, not have time for yourself. But, like I love that you introduced that, part of, like getting yourself that time, to your commute time, which is your time, whether you're walking or you take the train or whatever, to be able to do something. You might end up doing work in the end, hopefully not, but even if you do, that's time that you have, which is your me time. That's great. Yeah, like I love that, a reflection and review part. I think that's another part which is so important, because we do all get so lost and caught up in our everyday that just being able to prioritize that and put that in the forefront, and saying, hey, and I think it kind of links back to intentional. How intentional are you about it? So that, like being able to reflect and tie that, into it is so important. So no, that's really, really good. Mastering, some of those key things, I think is definitely like effective. I know, like, I mean, I can vouch for this, right? Like, I know, like there are times when you're like, hey, am I needed in the meeting? Like, what is the goal of the meeting? If there is a decision or whatever, if it's not the best use of my time, it doesn't make sense. And that's so true. I think for each one of us who are wanting to move the needle beyond our 9 to 5, I think making those decisions, which are harder to do, but really, I think it's, as going back and being intentional about our effort and saying, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't, because I'm not needed. I have a team and someone else who's actually responsible for that, who's going to make that decision. Having that, sort of trust to be able to do that, I think is just, again, really, really powerful. I think it ties in again with your automation and delegation piece. So brilliant. It I know will tie in really well, since we're talking about automation and delegation, into sort of the next piece of it. In terms of scaling a portfolio, and I know, for each one of us, especially, when we have a 9 to 5, and I've been in this spot where, when I had my, like when I was working at Amazon, and, like, and I was yet at the same time trying to do something beyond, just that 9 to 5. And it can be really, really intense, when you have a full-time job, especially when you're working at Amazon. So now, taking that and, trying to scale and build something beyond that is not a one-person job. Like, there's no way I could have done that or couldn't do that myself. Talk about how you've, not just how important, to build a reliable team is, but also, how do you go about investing, like your time, and, what are things that you look for in your partners and hires, that allows you to sort of, build that tribe that you talked about, right? Or identify, like that tribe.
Yeah, I think first thing is, this is almost near a marriage. And that's how I would start. Most of the folks you're going to work with on a deal, I mean, typical lifespan of this multifamily deal, 5 years, 7 years. You're all going to work together on that deal. It's not just about buying the asset, like you said. There's a lot that goes into asset management. And you have to do that for the next 5 years, for the next 7 years in some deals. So we spend a lot of time making sure we can, work with a team that we storm, form, bond together. The 100 days challenge I did early this year is a good example of how I identified the right team. So Rashmi is putting up something, and in our network, and like, yeah, she wants to go on this, and I'm jumping on a call with Rashmi, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I think we have similar cultural fit background from, maybe where we've worked in the past, or how we're approaching things, because there was something that was recurring on the call I had when we spoke, Rashmi, sometimes in January. It was like, we're going to figure it out. We probably said it like 20 times on the call. And that was a light bulb moment for me to say, well, this is a team that is going to solve complex problem. They don't know how, but they're going to figure it out, and they're going to stick together to figure it out, right? And that then, span into like working every day, meeting for minimum of 1.5 hours for 100 days, right? Reviewing deals, and people falling apart, or people falling off, from that team to the team that works today, to the team that is called Sentinel Peak Partner. The same thing I've done with my team in W Capital. My main partner, I've been working with him for the past 15 years, for instance. We've bought businesses, we've started businesses from scratch and sold it where we're in Nigeria. So we understand our language, right? Like, we don't have to be on a call together, for instance. We could delegate, right? You could make decisions the other way I would have made it, but he would be able to convince me to say this is why we went this way, right? So that's like super powerful too, to understand that, well, you understand everybody in the team, you understand the differences, and you bring the right differences to the team so that they can challenge the team. And then you understand the fact of what they are at home with, right? The skills that they are at home with. We have one of us, Justin, great in chasing down the deals and great in acquisition. Kim brings all of the impact that comes to due diligence end to end. She's going to call down the county, make all of the information we need. Adam does super underwriting. I know sometimes I ask myself, is it just underwriting I need to do? Because we have a great underwriter. Then talk about investor relationship, whether that's what you do, Rashmi. Sometimes you do multiple things, also coordinating the team, right? So that gives me an idea of the fact of the part I can focus on. I have team members that can focus on it. So that's a good example of, how do you drive a team that can make high velocity, efficient decision making mechanisms that helps us grow, right? And I remember in the early form of our team, we were asking ourselves the right questions, like, how do we want to operate, right? So you should identify first, making sure that you're prioritizing the fundamentals for your team, right? Do they have the right skill set? If they do not have, are they open to it, right? Because most of these things don't come homemade. And then once you're able to figure that out, it gives you a great place to leverage that system, even to automate things. Now, it might not come out of the box as described, but the work that needs to go in to make it the output you're looking for then has the right foundation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, especially for team building, and especially for those who have a 9 to 5, who want to be able to do this, it's, to have like a reliable team and, like find those key, parameters. And I think foundationally, I know like the one thing that, like stood out is, values, right? Going back, I mean, I think this is a little bit beyond, like, uh, than what I would consider marriage, right? It's a little beyond, because you're putting everything, your credibility, your whole persona is here, and you're putting it at risk, because now there are investors who have believed in you and your capabilities and have invested with you, right? It's not just like you have a husband or a wife in a relationship, and if things fall apart, maybe at best your blast radius is only your kids or your maybe your immediate family. But I feel like this is way beyond that. So to identify those key values and partner with that right people that you're able to work together and come together with, yet have fun, right? Like, be able to know that you're able to rely on someone, and at the same time know that their decisions, trust their decisions, that they're making the right ones, because like they have the same sort of value system. I think that's like that is key. I mean, if we have to go into the trying to go hire an employee to bring in on your team for the same, that's a completely different webinar that we're going to have. But
For sure, for sure.
right, but no, that's great. I know the other thing, like, if you actually think about, like, I mean, I know for me, the giving up my 9 to 5, in a sense was, personally was, like I actually lost that security of a financing, right? Like that steady income that came in, you know, bi-weekly. I don't have that security anymore, right? Like it's just not there. But I do have like a lot of other trade-offs. But what, and in hindsight, I always think about, oh my God, did I actually maximize that time when I had that security? I could have leveraged so much more. Did I do that? Did I maximize it? And should I actually go back and do that? These are questions that I dabble with almost on an everyday basis, right? So I do want to kind of talk about that a little bit, because I don't know, there are probably others in the audience who also are in the same position, who are either thinking of, oh my God, like I'm done, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go open a business, buy a business, like get into real estate, do whatever it is that they're passionate about, and they're a 9 to 5, and they don't believe in, making that smooth transition, but they want to cut the umbilical cord and move on. And some, do have the option to do it. But let's just, talk about that a little bit, because I want to figure out what are the advantages of having that 9 to 5, right? Because it's not a bad thing. I think it's brilliant to be able to have like that 9 to 5 if you're able to, leverage that and pursue, something that you're passionate about and build sort of, like that, the wealth, or, what have you. Because there are benefits of, securing financing, for example.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that a little bit, Goke, and, understand, like, what is your thought on, on that? Where have you been able to sort of leverage, that aspect of, having a 9 to 5 or a W-2, or
Yeah.
what, that portion of it?
No, awesome question. I think I've spoken about it a bit about how that drives stability, and folks should, continue to focus on, what drives that stability for them, what that means for them. It's a big leap to want to move out of that space. My first multifamily deal was actually I played as a limited partner, right? And that is what most people do, and that's what we do, right? We help very busy professional invest in apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And they invest as limited partners, meaning they are passive investors. They don't take the risk. All they bring to be part of the property ownership group is the fund they transfer to us, right? And what we owe them in returns are cash on cash returns. Um, depending on how the deal is structured, quarterly distribution is typical, and then monthly update reports. And if you really want to go see your property, that can be arranged for you to go see the property where you hold a stake in, right? So there is a lot of advantage, right, for staying in your stable place and doing what you're passionate about, right? Doing what you like to do. Not everybody likes real estate,
Yeah.
but I'm sure everybody likes the returns. Not everybody likes to deal with property managers. Not everybody likes to do cold call outreach, calling brokers and asking, what do you have for me today? So I started my journey, and my first financing came from my, typical 9 to 5. I'm investing as a limited partner, and I like what the team was doing. And I said I wanted to learn more. Like, tell me how to play even a better active role, which is an active role is a general partner role. It's more active. They bring the deals together, they guarantee the loan, and they do all of those sorts. Um, and then they run the assets after they buy it. They do all the asset management and things like that. So, but as I work closely with various lead sponsors in my first deal as a limited partner, they started giving me opportunities to be general partners, and I started having that hindsight, goals ticked out to actually go lead my deal, right? So my first thing I'm going to say to anybody in 9 to 5, if you're not talking to me, if you're not talking to Rashmi, you're missing. You should just jump on a call with us. Let's have investor relationship discussion. Let's talk about how we structure our deals, how you can play in any of our deals, right? And one big part I want to talk about is the fact that having that stability in your income puts you in a good position to talk about deals. The first deal I led personally was a 23 units self-storage medical office building with some mixed use commercial building in there. And it was creative financing, zero down payment out of pocket. The other deal we're in contract, it is all seller financing. So my point there is Sometimes you will think the financing is the problem. Why your 9 to 5 gives you opportunity to play as an LP, I think it also opens door for you to, work with the right team to learn more things. Like, how do you even get into deals with creative financing, or what does it even mean, right, to have the right schedule of real estate to actually sponsor a deal?
Yeah. No, that's so true. Going back to what I said, I wish I had leveraged a little bit more of that when I, was in that position. I think to your point, one of my first deals was actually being able to invest as an LP. And that's kind of how I started. And I also acquired a single family, another story. But that's essentially how you can, sort of asset stack, right? Use that opportunity to be able to stack assets versus versus being able to just go all in. But yeah, no, that's great. Last couple of questions. I know I want to leave at least a couple of a few minutes for questions. If anyone has questions, please feel free to post in the Q&A section of the link below that you guys have. But what I wanted to ask you, Goke, is what's sort of the most important piece of advice that you would give like a 13-year-old self, your 13-year-old self, because like dabbles in a lot of things. Just reflect back and tell us what piece of advice would you give?
Yeah. When you say 30-year-old is try some code, at that age, I was still back in Nigeria. I used to practically after school help out my mom sell what you all call the ice cream here in code, kind of my code chain, move all of those together. In the Iglo box and sell it to folks that were attending tutoring class and things like that. So I think those were like right memory right there. But if I'd have to go back in that space, I would say first thing, bet on yourself. You have to bet on yourself. And then the other thing, I like what Usain Bolt says. He says, dreams are free, goals have a cost. So
Ooh,
why you can daydream for free, goals
yeah.
don't come without a price, a team, time, effort, sacrifice, sweat. And this is kind of the equity you can build, right? We all have to pay for our goals. Our dreams are all free. So you're going to have to bet on yourself. Whether it's the time effort you're betting on, or whether it's the sweat equity you're building, or whether it's that sacrifice. You could do anything in your 5 to 9. But thinking through, are you building long-term generational wealth? Are you able to replace freedom of time to do what you want to do? And how is this helping what you're most passionate about? So taking risk, betting on yourself, learning continuously. That's something I've done. I think I evolve every other 4 years. Moves in different spaces. So I think I would continue to reiterate that. I wouldn't have imagined the volume of deals, the volume of sales leads I've done this year. And it's all learning continuously. I'm probably still in a bunch of school learning community and I'm picking up new knowledge. So that is still continuous. This year, for instance, I moved roles from like, managing typical program product teams to like managing data focused program product teams. So that is learning continuously. You got to value relationship. I don't think as 30 years old, that was something I would take so serious. But looking backward now, I think some folks have been able to build that tough for them. And then, yeah, self-compassion. Whether it's something we do for all the assets, you
Yeah.
have to care about the community, and you really have to care about the community. Last one is, sorry, you have to work hard. The balance is key, but you have to work hard.
Yeah.
Hard work pays, sure.
100%. That's so good. What mistakes, did you make earlier on that, that kind of shaped your investing like strategy today?
Yeah. I mean, I've lost a lot of money in investing. I focused short term in sometimes. I didn't diversify my portfolio the way I would have loved to diversify my portfolio. Earlier on, when I think about this, I think I didn't leverage the power of CMS. I talked about coaching, mentorship, and sponsorship in my investment. I did leverage that when it comes to my 9 to 5 career building, but I didn't think about it in business the way I'm thinking about it now. So I think, so yeah, I've lost money on deals. I will still lose money on deals because I'm hoping to fail. But now I know that I can minimize my risks to failure, right? Because I have the right network, I have the right people, I have the right processes, and I have the right set of eyes to make sure that I'm falling forward and safely.
Yeah, that's great. You know what? We have a question here. I'm considering expanding my real estate portfolio to the US market. As an international investor, what would be the best approach and strategy to go about it? How can I leverage your business experience to start the journey? What a brilliant question.
Yeah, no, I like this question. I think I've had family members visiting and we've gone to our boot camps together. And because I just like them to see that they can do this from anywhere, right? So twice I've done that in some of my mentorship class. I have it, spots. And I would say, oh, let's go together. Let's go see, how to play there. And I've spoken to investors that have invested internationally, not in the US. They're preserving their capital, they're preserving the value and hedging against forex inflation, and they are doing all of this passively. So I would say, take action, reach out to me, reach out to Rashmi. Our contact details are, everywhere on this one, because you need guidance, right? And then you need people first telling you, understanding what is your goal, right? It's not just about making the returns on the investment and making sure that you understand the full process. I think there are like a couple touch points before we even get to talking about specifics on deals and things like that. But yeah, the right thing to do is making sure that you're talking to the right set of people. And I think you have a lot of that in this webinar here.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, especially for folks who want to be able to, invest from overseas,
Yeah.
there's definitely a back path forward, even for them to be able to do that. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say complex, but it needs a little bit more finesse in being able to do that. But yeah, no, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to us and, um, we'll be able to help you with, at least giving you sort of the guidance on depending on, what your goals are to navigate that. Um, yeah, I don't see any other, questions, that have come up, Goke, and we're almost, at time. This was, truly such a blast. I had, an awesome time just sort of, digging into sort of your past and how you navigate both of this, challenging job between your 9 to 5 and, what you're doing. You're obviously killing it. And it was great, having you on, on the webinar. So thank you for making the time. For those of them who are on the call who want to reach out to you, what's the best way to, reach you, Goke?
Yeah, the name is Adegoke Falaiye on LinkedIn. I think there's just one of me. Um, so you can't miss that. I'm on Facebook. I'm trying to be on Instagram. They're pushing me, and I want to be there myself. But LinkedIn is usually my very good plugin. You can Google Double Hill Capital Partners. We have a website there. And then, yeah, Rashmi has my spear key. She can always open the door right next to me, whichever way.
Yeah.
But I would say take action. I think that one action is talking to the right set of people. There is a lot of going out there, but I think there is a lot of good opportunity, whether it's just learning or whether it's actually taking action to invest. Don't be so bothered about what it will lead to more than learning what are the opportunities.
Yeah, no, I think that's just a great way to sum up. I think this call is, one is take intentional action. I think, you know, just that is so powerful. You know, so on that note, we'll leave you guys. You know, I did post Goke's LinkedIn in the chat for those of, you know, who want to, you know, reach out. I can also post, you know, I know you'll get a recording of this as a follow-up with my information. So you could definitely reach out, you know, to me, you know, via that and schedule a call. But yes, you know, hopefully this was beneficial to you guys, and, you know, you found this valuable, and you'll go out there and, you know, kill it just like Goke here is, and, you know, take action. Thank you again for joining. Oh, I think we have someone who raised their hand. Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. I think we have someone who has their hand raised. Yeah. Hi.
Okay.
I think you, yeah.
Hi, you said you put it Doki's information in the chat. I didn't see anything at all.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, hold on.
There's nothing in the chat on my end.
I think, do you see it now?
Oh, now I see it. Now I see
Okay.
yours.
Yeah, I'm posting Goke's
Okay.
too. Do you see
Okay.
it now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect.
All right. And what is your guys' are you partners in deals, or how does it work?
Yeah, we are. You know, we're actually partner at Centennial Peak Partners, you know, where we
So,
invest in
you said
multifamily.
Centennial Big Partners?
Centennial Peak Partners.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are
All
you
right.
located?
I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, but I'm currently in in Florida. Just you know, I registered for the webinar, but I'm currently on vacation. I was supposed to be on vacation until, you know, it's hurricane now, so I'm stuck somewhere.
Oh my God,
But
hopefully safe.
yeah, it's I'm safe. You know, I'm at my friend's house. We were supposed to go on a different part of Florida just to vacation, but we can't go anywhere. So, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I catch the end of the webinar, so I really didn't know what the beginning was all about. But and I think there's another one, right?
Yeah, so, you know, we'll actually be sharing the recording. So
Mhm.
you'll get the recording. I want to say you'll probably get it tomorrow and a day,
Okay.
and you'll be able to watch the whole thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hopefully you found that useful. Enjoy your vacation.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.